So we'll start two after.
All right.
Oh my god, this lighting is brutal.
Yeah.
So just brief recap, Tenny, Aditya, and Robert. I'm just going to introduce you all, and then I'll hand it off to Aditya to kickstart her presentation.
All right.
Cool.
Looks like they took off the Slido feature. I don't know. Maybe they were playing around with it, but it was pretty cool.
Do we have where people will ask questions that we will be able to see or anything like that?
Yep, so that's going to be in the chat function. People will be able to ask questions there.
Okay. Who will be keeping an eye on questions?
If you like, I could do that.
Please. Yeah.
Sure.
If you want to just pick any ones that we would, should we say we'll have a few questions towards the end? That we'll pick a few questions and answer them towards the end?
Yeah, if you like, I can address that. Sure.
Yeah, this we can probably answer. We can probably go through a few, then we'll answer some questions at the end because some of the questions they have may be answered in the course of the discussion. But then anything else that's not really, or so any question that looks really good, we can certainly jump in and answer that. And oh, I see what it says now. Cool.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. We have a lot of people entering our session, so numbers are climbing. Robert, were you able to get everything sorted out? You're able to see the other options?
Or
I think you were looking for a couple of...
yeah, so yeah, as long as I put it in portrait, I can.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, me too.
Sorry.
Robert and I are on the same page. Once we put it in portrait, we can see stuff. When it's in landscape, you don't see
it was
much.
just before I could. Those. Yeah, I couldn't see anybody before.
Yeah.
Okay. So friends, the session's also being recorded. You can see at the top.
Okay.
So whenever it hits 4:02, get ready to rock and roll. Right, RBC?
All right. I will try to keep our energy up.
You already beat that. You already took that PhD, so you're good.
At 4:30 on a Friday. It's like, what?
Yeah, I know, right? We'll scrounge up the leftover we have and make it live.
All right, Tenny, you ready?
Tenny, what?
Ready? Everyone's ready?
Yes,
Yeah.
we are.
Awesome. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome, hackers, and thank you so much for joining RBC here today. Today, we have a career development session all planned out for you. We have Aditya, Tenny, and Robert who are going to get into how to construct your resume and also talk about some personal branding tips. So hold on to your questions towards the end of the presentation. You can certainly write them out in the comment box, and we'll look forward to answering them towards the end. Without further ado, Aditya, I'm handing it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Betsy. And I'm excited to be here today. So thank you all for joining. We won't take a lot of time. Let's just get right into it. As we go along, some of the questions you have may be answered in the course of conversation. So later on, we'll definitely make some time to pick out whatever questions are left, as many as we can. So by way of introduction, I'm a technology recruiting manager. And basically, my job in summary is to find and attract great talent in technology for my company. And in many areas, we find different things that we have to work on. So today we're going to have a quick chat about resumes, how to stay current with when you're searching for work, and just some of the tips that we've run into in our day-to-day life. Now, the first thing I'll say is this: there is no surefire exact science to resumes. Okay, what you always want to think about is this: when you send your resume somewhere, before you put it out or email it to anyone or put it on any platform, think of it this way: your resume is going to be speaking for you when you are not in the room. So, sometimes when you want to, um, if you play sports, you want to tell your coach about another player that really needs to be on your team. You are basically that person's mouthpiece to your coach or to anyone else. So your resume is your mouthpiece. So what do you want your mouthpiece to do for you? We'll pick a couple of things and run through. So one thing is, when you make your resume, it doesn't have to be perfection. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to be able to articulate your values. So you want to put things in there. It should tell the story about why you are the best fit for the role. Okay, whatever role you're applying for, tech, digital arts, whatever it is, accounting, your resume should be able to tell them, okay, you know what, you guys want somebody that is doing XYZ. Here is how what I do and who I am fits into this skill set you're looking for. Then you want to make sure, please make sure your resume is like 2 to 3 pages. Actually, I've seen some college students that their resume is 1 page. It is very okay. You don't need to have it super long or pad it. Don't feel the need to pad anything. Um, Whatever job you're looking for, make sure you understand what the job is looking for the people to do. So, for example, there's certain requirements the posting will have. You want to make sure that it's reflected in your resume. So, for example, if they say, we need a communication specialist, and this person is going to be writing, let's just say, blogs. So, somewhere on your resume, as a hiring manager, the person wants to see that, wow, this candidate, John, has written blogs and has done certain things that's relative to what they're looking for. We live in an AI world now. So you have recruiters and human beings looking at resumes, but we also have a lot of AI software that is helping with that search. So if the team is looking for somebody that has knowledge of certain applications or certain things, you do want to have that reflected in your resume. However, I'll say this: don't overdo it. Okay. Um, always put what you know how to do on your resume. You want to be able to walk the talk. Sometimes we see some resumes that look amazing, but then the person that shows up looks like it's a totally different person from the resume. So that one we don't want to do. Okay. If you have numbers and facts on your resume, is also a great thing. So, for example, if you are somebody that is in infrastructure and you say something like, worked on a project where we um, updated the system and it resulted in 99.9% of uptime, or we had tickets and the errors used to be 90%, now it's down to 70. You always want to throw in that information. Information is always good on your resumes. Um, Objectives, I see people writing objectives on resumes. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not necessary. The only downside to objectives that I've seen as your career grows is sometimes it may pigeonhole you into a certain area. So like a college grad or somebody that is looking for internships, yes, it's great to state what it is you're looking to do, but make sure your objective doesn't pigeonhole you into only one type of job. Okay. um, Hiring teams love people that are they're adaptable, that can learn and are looking to grow. So sometimes you don't always have to have the exact technical skill, but when they see that in things you've done, you are able to get in there and pick up what's being done, or you're a quick learner. Once people are able to see that, if you're teachable, many hiring managers are very open to that, especially in the student phase. That's why we have co-ops and internships. It's for you to get those teachable moments to help progress your career. Um, If you're writing a cover letter, in many cases you will, please personalize your cover letter. So um, make sure you don't send the same cover letter, maybe you personalize it a little bit to the job you're doing. You don't have to spend an hour doing it, but definitely personalize it a little bit. On the design of your resume, for example, there's so many things you do, but the core of what you want to have there is one, make sure we know what your name is. How do we reach you? Make sure your email address is clear. As far as email addresses are concerned, let's talk about one thing. The email addresses you have, party girl, party dude, and all of those type of email addresses. If you have one of those, keep that for your friends. Get an email address, make a Gmail, I was about to say Hotmail, Outlook address or something. Make an email address that is professional. You can use your name. You can make one for your job searches, but just make sure you use the right ones, okay? As far as what it looks like, you always have your summary. The summary at the top is usually, I would say, your 30-second elevator pitch. That area is where you want to say what makes you amazing. What makes you the only person we should look at for this role that makes you hireable? So you want to put that in there. Whatever skill sets you bring, it could be soft skills, it could be technology skills, but that's the area you want to put it in there. So your summary should definitely be striking. It is okay to take a look and see what other people are doing to kind of get ideas. The other thing is when you're getting this resume out, you honestly want the recruiter or the person reviewing it to get excited. I've seen some resumes that I look at and I'm like, whoa, you know what? We need to call this person on this person. So you're looking at it and then you want to read more. On average, I think I'd say you have about 10 to 30 seconds to catch your reader's attention with your resume. So they're going to start from the top, make it count. Okay. Um, you want to make it immediately clear that you have what it takes to do this job and do it well. I actually would say you want to make it immediately clear that you have what it takes to excel in the job. So all a part of letting your resume talk for you, put the vital information there. Um, Highlight your areas of expertise. I can't say this enough. That's most relevant to the job. Now, if you are a student that is in data science and the job is looking for somebody that's going to come in and work on projects and it involves maybe certain software you've used and all that, if you notice that they're using something that you know how to use or you state that, make sure you tie it into what you know and what you're able to learn so they can see that from you. Okay. Um, it is also okay in your resume to, if you have co-op terms or you have worked somewhere for whatever jobs you've done, even if the job doesn't tie into what you're doing now, if you've worked in a job, say you've done a job that is customer service or customer relations, where you have to listen to problems and provide solutions and, all of that, that is always relevant to every job you do. When somebody is paying you, they're giving you money for doing something, right? So 9 times out of 10, you're solving a problem, you're making a company money, you're making them efficient, or you're saving them money. So however it is that you've done something in the past that has tied to that, you want to highlight that too. Keep that, we'll also keep that for as a tip for interviews. Okay. Then I would say also, when you are in your resume, many of us are not used to bragging about our achievements and things we've done. Please brag on yourself. Let me say this again, brag on yourself. Do it humbly, but brag on yourself. It is very okay to say the things that you've done that are achievements that made you successful. If you worked on a project and you got accolades because you came in and maybe you were on an agile team and you guys did some stuff that was amazing and delivered certain results, speak about it. If you work on a project during your co-op term and you had some amazing results and you solved a problem, you may not be able to give details of exactly what you did, but you can also provide information on the fact that you worked on such and such a project or something, and here's how you delivered value. There is the project team value, but then there's also what you added in value. So always, please brag on what you do. Okay. I would say write in the first person. You know, I see sometimes where people write in the third person. I would say write in first person. Your accomplishments, like I said, it has to have made the company money, saved them money, or made them more efficient, one way or the other. That's always something in there. For your education, you're a student, so it should be on there, whatever you're studying. If you've taken extra classes, maybe you are interested in I would say digital art design or something else that's not, you can add it on there, because sometimes the skill sets you need in a job is not always what you are studying. If you are a wizard at Microsoft Excel, pivot tables and all kinds of stuff is on there, please put it on your resume. I'll tell you why. Many roles require you to look at data, manipulate data. So if you have things like that, make sure it's on your resume. Okay. So we're going to think of one thing else outside of the resume too. You have to find a job, right? So in order to know what jobs are out there, or get the opportunities for interviews and all that, if you're in a school, you want to do a couple of things. You always want to know which employers are coming around. You want to know what's relevant to your industry. So if you are in data, for example, you should find out what associations, what organizations, and what webinars are going on. Many of them will be free or next to free. A lot of them will provide availability for students so you can attend. You want to know what's going on in your industry. It's also good to know what's going on overall general. If there are meetups, well, we're not meeting anybody now due to COVID, but if there are virtual meetups going on, you want to know about those too. So when you are reaching out, know also, I would say, knowing people that work in the industry you work in. LinkedIn is a wonderful tool and it's powerful. Use LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, I truly need to ask you why. It doesn't need to be super fancy. It doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be the best thing ever. You don't have to wait until it's perfect, but you should have a LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile should say who you are, how we get a hold of you. So you should have an email address in there somewhere, or keep on checking your DMs regularly, and what school you go to and what you're doing. Because what happens is sometimes people just do searches on LinkedIn to provide information. So you want to be on LinkedIn because there's a lot of things you will find out. Find out groups and associations that are catering to your demographic. So if you are a woman, and you are in financial services, there are associations that cater to that. If you're a woman in technology, same thing. If you're indigenous, same thing. So there are so many areas to look at. So please make sure you do that. As you go along to try to search for jobs, also, it's important for you to, you might want to know where you're applying to. Okay. And this is something that I say to experienced hires, students, anybody looking for a job. Always keep a list of where you apply to. I would even say take it further. Make a spreadsheet, know where you apply to, know which job you applied to, and you might want to download the job description, because sometimes when you get the interview and you're planning for it, the job posting may be down, and then you can't see what the description was. And it's not really the greatest when you ask the hiring manager, so do you have a copy of the description? So you might want to have that information, stay organized. However, it makes sense to you. If it makes sense to print it out and put it in a file folder, do what works for you, but stay organized and know where you applied to. I would say also, for the job process, when filling out the job application, it is okay to say student. It is okay to say, when they say occupation, if you are a student in DevOps, it's okay to say DevOps student. You can qualify student with whatever type of student you are. That kind of helps. What you don't want to put in there, please don't put the word unemployed. Unemployed is not who you are. Okay. You are a student, you are a professional growing. Okay. So we want to speak life into that. So please use whatever it is that you are working in. If that, whatever your last job title is, it's okay. Or make sure it ties into being a student going along with that. Um, it's not a time to be shy or be coy. Let people know you're available. If you are looking for an opportunity for a job, speak up. Closed mouths do not get fed. So your LinkedIn profile, you can put it on there, actively searching for, I don't know, summer co-op opportunities or fall or whatever as your tagline. There's a spot there in there for that. Every opportunity you have, if there's job postings, apply to them. Um, I know sometimes people will say, "Oh, I saw the job posting, but I want to find out so much more about it." And you're trying to book meetings and all that. Meanwhile, you, John, you're trying to find out information, but Susan has gone ahead and applied to the job, and Susan has been shortlisted, and you are still out playing catch up. So go for it and then find information and make sure you get yourself organized. Um, I would say for other things is use your network. Talk to who you know, message who you know, research. If you ask somebody for about information, worst case they say no. I've had plenty of no's in my lifetime and I'm still here. Nobody has ever died from saying no. If they say no, we come back and you find another way, right? So ask. You never know what information is possible. What you don't want to do is kind of put it out to have the other person go find a job for you. Nobody's going to find a job for you, right? You're going to do the heavy lifting, but people will always find ways to help you out. Right now, we're in COVID, so most of your interviews are going to be virtual. I think this is one demographic that is amazing at the digital world and virtual stuff and everything. So the only thing I would say to you in this space is make sure all of your technology is right. Make sure you can connect to the interview, you practice, and find an interview buddy. And make sure it's somebody that is a little bit critical, that would tell you if you're not looking right or you're not sounding right. Practice, practice, and practice again. Okay? Practice those interviews, what you would talk about. Um, and things that you know are important to speak about. I would say practice those and have like a short list of things um that you would use. you know Remember, nobody has really navigated a pandemic, at least in our lifetime, that has all the answers. But go ahead and simply put your best foot forward and get the information you need together. Be prepared and get the info you need together. Always remember that everything we're doing in the resume setup, in the interviews, in the emails, and all that, it's always building relationships. You are building relationships to get the job, to know people, okay, and to continue to network. Networking will never hurt you. So get out as much as you can, connect, listen to webinars as much as you can. Anything that's relevant, go ahead and sign on. You never know where information comes to you. Betsy, I was going to see, did we have any questions we needed to look at?
We definitely do. Some questions came through towards your earlier talk, but would you say it's necessary to use your school email?
Actually, school email is a great one. You can definitely use your school email as long as you have access to it at all times. It's easy to get to. So school email is good because I believe in school you kind of have to use your first and last names, if I'm not mistaken, or your name, some variable of your name. So that's good. Use that too. That's fine.
Yeah, most definitely. Absolutely. Um, okay, so how do you show that you're adaptable and keen to grow in your resume?
Um, I would say this. Adaptable is sometimes you can have, maybe you work in a role and you're coming out of school first, second, maybe first, second rotation, and you put in, when you have words like um, ramped up, learned, participated, um, all those words that lend to show that you are able to pick up new skills. You could also have something in your resume that shows maybe at the end of the co-op session, I learned this. You could do that in your resume to say, for each session or each job you have, You could highlight with one line or one sentence new skills that you picked up or new learnings that you had. I think that would be something that would, it's going to be subjective to each person, but that would be something that you might be able to do.
Awesome. This is a interesting question. Should a resume have color or is black and white fine? By Eric.
Honestly, I am a simple girl. If you send a resume over and it's black and white, you have your font, as long as the font is readable for those of us with glasses, and I think it makes sense. Too much color, it becomes so busy, and I'm like, whoa. So it's different. Some people like a little pop of color. You can never go wrong with having your font in your regular font. The resume is not when you're trying out fancy fonts. Let's leave the fancy fonts for other stuff, right? But make sure it's easily readable. So you want to make sure it's like, I want to say 11, 12 points in size. The 9, 10 might be a little too small, but 10, 11, 12, okay. And let it be an easily, what's it called? Times New Roman is a great one. Everybody has it, no matter what application they're using. So I would say that is good.
Okay. This is a question pertaining to our new grad cohort. So, as a recent new grad, how can I prove that I'm good at anything?
Let me tell you this. You are the first of all, I don't even know what you studied, but you're good at one thing. You graduated. Okay? Not everybody that goes to school graduates. So, number one, you graduated. Let's hold on to that. Now, in the process of you going to school and doing things, you will have things that you've been successful at. So, if you didn't have a tally, now that we're talking about this, let me say this one thing to everyone. As you go through school and work, I'd like you to get in the habit of keeping a kudos file for yourself. Somebody sends you an email and says, Betsy did a great job. Keep it. Like copy, paste it, put it in your little journal. If you journal, put it in there. Somebody says, Tenny delivered this and she did whatever it is. Tenny, put it in your little kudos file, right? Keep a tab of all that. It makes it so much easier later on when you need to brag about yourself to go get that information. So for you now that you're graduating and you're trying to figure out how to tell people you are amazing at some things. You may not be amazing at everything. That's okay. You're supposed to not know everything as a new grad, but the tenacity to put in time and effort and be consistent, you have to have that to graduate and graduate with a good GPA. At least when I went to school, it was. So that consistency, you basically want to show them that look, I'm going to show up to work if you hire me. I'm going to be teachable. I'm going to try my best and I'm going to learn. Okay. So you want to, I'm going to show up. However, that's going to be. You can portray that in your past things of whatever you've worked on, grade work or co-op work, or even the work you do every day. If you are a student and you've worked at Tim Hortons as someone that works at the drive-through, and you've done that consistently for 4 years, first of all, you're getting up every day, you're going. Two, within that job, you are doing well for them to retain you because every job will fire you if you're not doing right. Okay. So step away from expecting and comparing yourself to the people in the industry that have 5 and 10 years. They've been there for a hot minute. You want to make sure that you highlight the things that are your successes, but you also want to show that you are teachable and you will show up. If you hire me, here's what I've done in the coursework I was doing. Here's what my professors said about me. You want to get all of that together in a nice and concise way to show them, basically, if you don't remember anything, remember that you want to show, I'm going to show up and I'm going to show up right for this job if you hire me.
That was
Any
a
other one?
really that was a really good answer, Adisha. I want to highlight this one because there are some high schoolers in the bunch.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
any tips for a high school student resume?
High school resume? Yes. This is a good one because I had to help my son write his first resume when he was in high school. And it was a little bit of a challenge to figure out what to put on there. So in high school, if you volunteer for committees, If you volunteer for, those community hours they have you guys do in high school, put that on your resume. Okay. All the event, anything charity that you do, put it on your resume. All you want to do in high school, you definitely show, whatever you're studying and what your interests are. But for high school, it's a lot about the extra stuff that you do, because you want to show that, okay, look, I know I'm in high school and you think I'm a young one, but when I have a job, when I have things assigned to me that I'm responsible for, I take it seriously and you can trust me with your job. So that's what you want to have on your high school resume.
That was fantastic, Adisha, and I'm sure our hackers really enjoyed your session. So what we will do is we will pass over the mic over to Tenny and Robert to deliver a personal branding workshop for you. So again, thank you so much, Adisha. And I'm sure we have a lot of
Thank
hackers
you.
in the comment section asking questions. So feel free to respond to them at your earliest convenience. Everyone,
I will. Thank you.
thank you so much. Everyone gear up for our personal branding workshop.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the introduction, Betsy. And that was great, Adija. Hello, everyone. And buckle your seats, so they say. We're about to take off. Okay, so my name is Tenny, and I'm an experienced designer at the Royal Bank of Canada. I have my colleague on the call as well, Robert Mitchell. One of the projects that we worked on, I'd say in 2019 was, actually 2020/2019, was to increase the female women representation in technology roles at the bank. And when we started doing our research, one thing we found out that is women are a bit reserved when it comes to talking about their accomplishments and their skills, to what Adija mentioned. And to help encourage women to articulate their strengths and their accomplishments, one thing that we came up with, in collaboration with RBC Future Launch, was defining your brand workshop, where we'll help women feel comfortable talking about themselves by teaching them what their strengths are. Okay, so today we are going to do three things. We're going to talk about a brand overview, how to tell your story, and then building and practicing your elevator pitch, which we now call the virtual pitch. Okay, so what I want everybody to do is head into the chat box and say, what is one word that comes to mind when you hear the word brand? What comes to mind? So I'm just going to escape right now and go into the chat box to see what we have. So we have summary, personality, identity, image, unique, giving a face. All right. Let's keep them coming and then we'll move on to the next. Representation, personal, style, reputation. Yes, these are all excellent words to use to describe a brand. Capitalism, love it. Memorable. Eric is ... Okay. All right. So you're all right. Your own regard. So I'm just going to pull up a a document that we had from our previous session, similar to what you listed in the chat box. We have presentation, how you stand out, what is recognizable. You have reputation, which is a big one. Your image, marketing, identity, product, how you sell yourself. So you're definitely right when you are defining a brand. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. What comes to mind when you see this logo? What comes to mind? Let's head over to the chat box. Oh, brand is the words of a person, in my opinion. Aaron said disease. Okay, heart disease. Let's keep them coming. Super size me. Yum. Happy meal. Addiction. Antibody. Okay. Ronald McDonald. Pink slug. Okay, let's keep it coming. Popular. Okay, what burger is that? All right. Infamous. Okay. All right. So thank you for that. You are all right. So we had fast food, we had unhealthy, fast junk, quick fries, Big Mac, burger, the last resort. We have yummy, we have golden arches. So you're right. McDonald's, one thing you know about me is that I love McDonald's. When people want to bribe me, they send McDonald's to my house. When I do a task at work, people give me McDonald's gift cards. So that's how much I love McDonald's. I'm one of those people. And for me, they are consistent as well. Moving on to the next. What comes to mind when you see this image? And can we all see my screen properly?
I think it's still on McDonald's, Tenny. Oh,
Still on
there we go.
McDonald's? Oh,
No,
so,
it changed. It changed. It's good.
it changed. Okay. Thank you, Robert. Innovation, Apple, revolutionary, epic beard, marketing strategy, money, cool, turtleneck lord, visionary, creative, 1980s tech, Brian, unconventional manager. Okay. Ahead of its time. I like that. Okay, so I'll go back into the slides right here. And do let me know when you see it's lagging a bit behind. Okay, so similar to what you said, we have innovation, Apple, simple innovator, technology, future driven, somebody said he was a dynamic leader, salesperson, smart, simple. He's famous for his turtleneck. I'm wondering if anybody in the chat has recreated that look recently. But yeah, so that's who we have right there. Okay, so before we move on, one thing I'm going to say is a brand is, how companies see themselves and how they want the public to see them. For example, everybody defined McDonald's as yummy, consistent, unhealthy food. Different things was described as McDonald's. When we describe Steve Jobs, you described him as a leader, innovation. Some people call him arrogant. Some people call him smart. These are, a brand is, how a company wants to see themselves and how they want the public to see them. For McDonald's, for example, they don't pride themselves in being, gourmet, serving gourmet dishes or luxury, fine dining. That's not how they want to be seen. They want to be fast, consistent, and the whole lot. So that's what we define as a brand, who the company is or who the individual is. Now, as we move on, everybody has a brand, including you. Just let me know if you can see my slides, because I know it's lagging a bit behind, but I want to make sure that we are all following. Yes, no? Okay. So everybody has a brand, including you. So not just companies, but every individual has a brand. And as we go further into the conversation, you'll find out, what your brand is as a person. Okay. A brand consists of three things. Now, your personal brand, this is what I'm talking about. Your personal brand consists of three things. It is what you do, which is the outer layer of this circle that we have on the screen. And what you do is your visible qualities. So for example, you're seeing me today. I have on a turtleneck. I have braids. I have glasses. I am a Black woman. These are my visible qualities. So the first thing when you see me is all of these things. And then you begin to base your impression, your opinion of me based on what you see about me. So sometimes you will hear people say, I kind of judge you because of this is how you dress, or this is how you style your hair. This is how you give your handshake. So I have judged you to be so and so kind of person. Before people get to what you say, they have to like what you do, which is your physical qualities. Now, maybe they like your physical qualities. Now they move on to the inner part of the circle, which is what you say. Now, what you say is based on how you communicate and what you share. A lot of times we hear people say, I spoke with this person, but I didn't like their tone. I didn't like how they sent this email to me. I didn't like their delivery, whatever it is. What we communicate plays a lot into how people perceive us. So what are we saying? Are you sharing positivity or negativity? I'd like us to think more about that as you evaluate your brand. Now, at the core of your brand is who you are. It's your purpose, your core beliefs, and your values. If who you are at the core does not reflect the other parts of your brand, then there needs to be some readjustments. Before anybody gets to your core, they have to like how you communicate and what you do before people can say, okay, I actually know this person. I'll give you an example. So Robert and I have worked on the same team for maybe almost 2 years now. Before Robert and I became friends, I was like, oh boy, I like his beard, I like his style. I was intrigued to, know more about him. And then we got, to have conversations through our meetings, through lunch break, and so on and so forth. We have similar beliefs. And then I realized that at the core of who Robert is what I see in what he says and what he does. If those don't tally, it's time for retrospection. Now, next on our list, we are going to, talk about a self-discovery exercise that would help you understand, who you are, how others perceive you, and how you want to be perceived. Last but not the least that I'm going to say today is, it's not only how people see you, but how you want to be perceived. Similar to the example of McDonald's that we gave today, McDonald's doesn't want to be known as a luxury restaurant. So what do you want to be known as? That's a challenge that I'm going to pose to the group today. Is what do you want to be known as? How do you want people to perceive you? And begin to adjust your brand to fit that persona. I'll pass it over to my colleague, Robert, right now. That will take off in the next part of our presentation.
Thank you, Tenny. Can you guys hear me? Tenny, just give me a thumbs
Yes.
up if you can. Okay, perfect. So I'm still stuck on the Steve Jobs slide, so I'm going
Oh,
to sort of look off to one side, and I'll hope that the slides are coming along, and if not, maybe after this we can make sure that these slides come out.
oh,
Uh, but, oh, there we go. Perfect. It's perfect.
okay.
Okay, now you're at the tell your story. So that's excellent. Thanks, Tenny. So thank you everyone for joining. As Tenny said, my name is Robert. I've worked at RBC for almost 17 years, and I never thought I would be here for that long, but I can honestly say when you work at an organization as large as RBC, you can really do anything that you want. So if your passion is technology, if your passion is marketing, if it's communications, if it's wealth management, all of these things are part of an organization this big. So I have had 4 very different jobs in that time. And a lot of the things that Adija was talking about and Tenny was talking about, I'm just going to sort of build on those and how you can leverage a couple of the things that we're going to talk about. So the self-discovery tool, and then what used to be called an elevator pitch, but is now, we call it a virtual pitch. But these are just some tools you can use for helping you to build your CV or your resume. And then also considering these things as you work towards building your own personal brand. So on the slide right now really is just tell your story. And after this session, Betsy will be sharing this tool. It's called a self-discovery tool, and really just encourage you to complete it as part of your overall brand building. So again, just urging you to take some time to do that as part of Hack the North or after Hack the North, and really just understanding that you're going to get some value out of this, and it's going to help you build some of these other pieces that Tenny and Adija talked about already as well. But the purpose of the self-discovery tool, Tenny, if you want to go to the next slide, is really just to push you to think about 4 main things. So what is it that you do well? So again, that's something that you could pick out and you could put on your resume. What inspires you? So that is something that you may be able to put on or in a cover letter. what you think you need, and also where you think you need to grow. So once you do land in a role and you start thinking about a career, what do you want to do next? You see someone doing something that you would like to do. So what skills does that person have to do that? And do you potentially need to take courses or job shadow or things like that? But really, the whole purpose of the overall exercise is to help you discover what your strengths are, your preferences are, but also to identify and build your confidence in speaking about those things. So it's one thing to know what your strengths and skills are, but how do you communicate those things and how do you get those out to your intended audience? And we'll talk about that in one very specific situation when we get to the virtual pitch as well. And another thing that the self-discovery tool helps you identify is what are those skills that you have that are transferable. So as I mentioned, I've had 4 very different roles within RBC, but one thing that's sort of consistent across all of those is my ability to do project management. So I always look at a role as well as something I need to get something out of that role. So if I'm switching from one business or one product to another, I need to learn something I want to develop as a person. So that's what I get out of it. But regardless of what the role is that I am in, I have project management skills and I can do that. So that's one way to sort of position. I've got this skill. I know that the question came up around, I'm a high school student or I don't have any experience. But what are the skills that you have that would make you successful at the role that you want? So again, it can be organization. It may not necessarily be a technical skill, but what are those skills that you have that you can move around? Um, sorry, I'm a slide behind here again, Tenny, so I'm just gonna follow along over here. So really, again, what you want to do is take the things that you get out of the self-discovery tool and then build that back and give some active thought to that about what you want your brand to be. So that's what Tenny was actually speaking about. So articulating your strengths, understanding what your aspirations are. So have you actually taken the time to think, this is where I am now, this is what I want to do next, and what do I need to do to get there, and how do I go about closing the gap to get there? So again, Betty will share, this is just a screenshot of the actual self-discovery tool that Tenny has up there right now. The actual version of this will be shared with you as well. So again, just really strongly encourage you to take the time to fill this out. And then the pieces from this self-discovery tool, you can actually use them to help develop your CV or resume. And then also, if we go to the next slide, Tenny, the other thing I'm going to talk about just briefly is developing your own personal elevator pitch. Now, before COVID, we used to call this an elevator pitch, but obviously you're likely not going to be getting into an elevator with anyone anytime soon. But regardless of that, we call it a virtual pitch now because it is very adaptable. You can use it in any number of situations. And we'll get into that in just in a moment. But really, what is an elevator pitch it's a sales pitch. Really, you're just trying to sell yourself to a person. It is short, it's concise, and you do want it to be memorable for the person that you're communicating with. You really want to take the time to introduce yourself. It should also be natural and easy to understand. So this is something that I'll talk a couple times about is practicing this thing, but also having more than one. So this is really you talking about yourself in a very compressed period. So you should know all of these things. Your self-discovery tool may help you hone in on some of the things that you actually want to focus on. But at the end of the day, if you practice this, you get comfortable with it, you should be able to, you run into somebody in a virtual meeting, you are on a virtual coffee chat with someone or they say, oh, just tell me a little bit about yourself, or you're going in for an interview. That's often one of the first questions they'll ask. Then this is the perfect time to do that again. But with practice, it's short and concise, and you're going to hit the point that they want to hear about. So Tenny, if we want to go to the next slide. Perfect. So what's on the slide now really is just the elements of what an elevator pitch is. So on the left-hand side, what we're really looking to do is you want to introduce yourself, obviously, and you may include your current job and team depending on the situation that you're in. So again, if you are applying for a role, you may not need to include your current role because the person interviewing you has seen your CV. You can still include it, but for example, if you're meeting someone for a virtual coffee and they don't really know you that well, then you may want to weave your current role in there. But again, keeping in mind the time frame, you may or may not want to put that in there. You also want to make sure that you're making a connection with the person. So if you've seen someone do a presentation before, or they've posted an article on LinkedIn, that could be your in. Hey, I saw you post this article about women representation in technology. So as Tenny was saying, part of this workshop that we're doing came out around women in technology promoting themselves. So if you've seen someone talk about that and promote it, then that can be your in. And you also want to talk a little bit about what is unique, what you have to offer. So again, if you're coming into a role that's very technical, you may want to weave in your coding skills, or if they need Excel or PowerPoint skills or something like that, it's also an opportunity to put that in there. And then the other thing really is you do want to have a suggestion of a next step. So this is really what your call to action is, and you're letting that person know what it is you want or how that person can help you. So again, would it be okay if I reached out to you on LinkedIn? If you've made the comment around, oh, I saw you having this presentation around women in technology, I've got some articles, can I share those with you? If it's a follow-up to a job interview that you've had, again, you can plant some seeds in there. So really, what is the call to action? So when will I hear back? Can I reach out, et cetera, et cetera. And then the right-hand side of this slide really is just some additional tips. So think about how you can capture the person's attention and spark their curiosity. So again, if you have found something or heard them do a presentation, you heard them do a TED Talk or something, reference that, because that's going to make a connection between you and that person. And also, don't be afraid to hone in on what makes you you and what makes you unique. So again, if you're in that situation where you're applying for a role, what is going to make you stand out from other potential applicants for that role as well? And then the other thing is, again, as I've said before, it should be natural, it should be honest, authentic. You're talking about yourself, so that should be easy enough, but that's where that point of practicing comes in. And then lastly, you want it to be short and concise, ideally between 30 and 60 seconds. So again, imagine, you got into an elevator on the ground floor, you're going to the 6th floor, you're not going to have a long time. So you do want it to be short and concise. And then Tenny, if you want to come to the next slide. Excellent. So really just in terms of homework, and what we would ask you to do is, again, have a look at that self-discovery tool and complete that, and then work on building yourself an elevator pitch. So you're going to build it, you're going to refine it, and you may, again, want to build different pitches for different scenarios, whether it's a virtual interview, it's a coffee chat. One thing that quite happens at RBC, you're coming into a WebEx call or you're coming into a Zoom call, you're the first person in the room with someone you've never met before, and they may say, oh, hey, so tell me about yourself. Again, this is a great opportunity to use this. And then also validate what you have built. So when you have your pitch done, build it. So similar to what Adija was saying around practice your interview, practice your virtual pitch. Again, yes, you're talking about yourself. It should come to you. But again, when you try to talk about yourself in 30 to 60 seconds, it may not be the easiest thing. So you want to, again, practice it. Practice makes perfect, as they say. So that's another thing that you want to do. And then also keep in mind that this is not limited to a verbal format. So as you build your LinkedIn profile or you use other social media, do you have a very crisp sort of 1 or 2 lines about you, what makes you unique, and why someone would want to potentially, again, meet you for a coffee, consider you for an interview and things like that. And then as you do practice this and you build it and validate it, when we talk about validating, one of the things you can do is something we call 2x2 feedback. So sit down with a parent, with a friend, somebody that knows you, because another thing we found with, and Tenny said this, especially with the women in technology pieces, they don't like to brag about themselves, and they may not think about saying certain things to promote themselves. So this is a great opportunity to sit down with someone who knows you and say, Tenny, you left out this thing that you are amazing at. So yes, develop it yourself. Again, have a couple of different pitches potentially, but sit down with people that know you and can give you feedback. So the 2x2 is really have them tell you two things that they like about the pitch and two things that you could potentially change. So that's just one way, very simple to remember, two things you like, two things you would suggest that I change as well. And then the last thing here, just around virtual, the world for everybody has changed with COVID. So a couple of things you want to keep in mind as you get ready to do a virtual pitch. So whether, and it's not even just the pitch, but if you're going into a virtual interview, you're going into, again, a virtual coffee chat or something like that, just make sure that you're checking your technology ahead, make sure that the sound is there, the volume is correct, that sort of thing. And then also do keep in mind the delay. So quite often if you're in a meeting, you'll have two people talking over, someone says, sorry, go ahead. No, you go ahead. So when someone does ask you a question or you ask them a question, give them time to respond. I know 1 or 2 seconds can actually seem like an eternity of silence when you're on a Zoom call or something like that, but a lot of that is also just the delay in technology. And then the last thing I'll leave you with really is just, again, remember that this is not a one and done exercise as well. So as you move from role to role, you're going to pick up new skills, you're going to expand your network. So keep those things in mind and refine and add and change your pitch as well. So if you pick up skills around coding or public speaking or things like that, maybe take a step back to that self-discovery tool, revisit it, and then refine your pitch from there as well. So that's a lot of talking from Tenny and I. I think we've got a few minutes left. If anyone has any questions, we will hold it there.
Hi, hackers. If you have any questions, don't forget to put it in the chat box, and that way we can read them off for Tenny and Robert to answer. So far, you're getting a lot of kudos. So to Christiana, we do have other RBC representatives that will be available at our sponsor booth this evening. Sammy asks, what's your favorite question to ask in a coffee chat?
Ooh, it depends what it is. I mean, it depends what it's for. So, Adisha, I don't know if you want to take that, but I will just bring one of my roles. I actually did recruiting for one of the rotational programs within RBC Wealth Management specifically. And I think one of the questions I always would ask people is around, because the rotational program was for 2 years, and I would say to them that this is a 2-year job interview. So what are you going to do to ensure that at the end of 2 years you land a permanent position? So that was my favorite question because it touched on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. I think for me too, depending on what we're talking about, but another thing that I sometimes ask is in a coffee chat, if I'm having a coffee chat with somebody that I know is, on the market looking for work, I ask them, I don't ask, we know we're talking about work, but I ask them, what is it that you're looking to do in your next role? Okay. Because just because they want to apply for something, sometimes they might be looking to do something, and maybe what they're looking to do is available in another group. So I ask sometimes, what are you looking to do in your next role? I've been asked in a coffee chat what my journey was. I've been asked why I like technology. I've asked people, what is it about this particular role that excites you? And then if it's a question, if it's where we're doing other stuff, it just depends. But what you always want to do is you want to try to ask questions that are open ended. Don't ask questions that's going to get you a yes no answer. That's what you don't want. If there's anything I could say to you in a coffee chat.
That was great. Thanks, Adisha and Robert. Someone else did ask a question. In the self-discovery tool, one of the question is, what inspires you? I was wondering what this means. Is it in general or career-wise? Some examples would be great.
I would take
So it's
that
both of
too.
those things. So
Yep.
yeah. So the self-discovery tool. So I think you've probably heard the if you do something that you love, it doesn't feel like you're going to work. So if you have a passion, so if it's communications, I love to write and you're applying for a role, then absolutely there's a connection there. But also if you're passionate about sports, so you love sports, so great. But is there
Hmm.
also, can you then make that a connection? So I'm really good at being part of a team, for example, or I'm very good at, you know, overcoming adversity. So I've worked on a team, we've succeeded against adversity. So both of those things. So absolutely things that you personally are really passionate about, but also is there a connection to work things?
Yeah, I agree. It's both. I would just add to that. I'll use mine as an example. In my work, I'm passionate about providing opportunities to people with skill sets. But in my personal life, I'm passionate about travel. I'm passionate about writing about travel. I'm also passionate about um, making, helping to make the playing field equal for diversity and inclusion. I'm just lucky now that in the work I do, a lot of that plays into it. So I'm enjoying my private passion along with work. So it keeps me going. Those are the things that literally motivate me and keep me going. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. In many cases, things that you like on your personal life, if you're a blogger, then sometimes that might also help your writing and things that you do at work. So it's okay to talk about the two. I just wouldn't say, I love cooking and I cook 24/7. Even if you love cooking, you have to research recipes and things like that. So that's a research skill set that comes into work. So tie it into work and you'll almost always be good.
That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your insight there, Adisha and Robert and Tenny. So, hackers, it is 5 p.m. We are up for time, but we thank you so much for joining us here today on our career development session. I hope you took a lot of notes and gained a lot of nuggets as you're trying to build your career in this peculiar world. All right. Thank you so much, Robert, Tenny, and Adisha.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks. Have a good one,
everybody.
everyone. Bye
You have a
bye.
good
Have a
one.
good
All the best.
weekend.